Porsche was recently driven to the American Le Mans Series GT title by Kurt Wagner. It's a 410 horsepower full race battle wagon that can scream from 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds and demolish a quarter mile in 11.2 seconds at over 126 miles per hour. And the outer boundaries of its performance envelope is just now being explored. Mack wasn't planning on pushing any part of that envelope too far, especially when car owner Darrell Havens was asked how difficult it would be to, let's say, have to buy another one if this one got lost.
Well, right now you can't buy a car like the car that's sitting here. Porsche is going to be selling some. They're making them right now. If I remember correctly, the base price on the car is somewhere between $175,000 and $180,000, and then there are options such as, do you want the bigger brakes? Do you want the headlights to run at Daytona at night? Do you want the bigger battery system, et cetera, et cetera? I suspect that if you optioned it out to go run the car at Daytona, to be competitive at Daytona, it's probably somewhere around $210,000 to $220,000. That's with no spares except for wheels. And then there's the spare engine, and if I remember correctly, I just got a fax from Porsche Motorsports. They're asking between $70,000 and $80,000 for spare engines.
Armed with that kind of information, Mack felt it would be wise to get some expert advice from the man who won the 1999 ALMS title in it.
My frame of reference is largely showroom stock racers, street tires. Cars are not very modified a lot. That's most of my experience. How does this car differ from a showroom stock racer?
I would say that the car is different than a showroom stock racer in that it is a much stiffer platform as far as racing. The car, the brakes, the chassis, the springs, the setup, the steering input. It's gonna feel like a showroom stock car because it's big and you can sense the windshield and the roof around you and doors. So you're gonna have the references, the physical references are gonna be very similar, but just overall feel of the car is gonna be much more like a real race car.
Where are the danger areas? Where is it likely to punch through the envelope?
The car is, I would say, most tricky, if you will. Under braking, corner entry, getting the car settled down, getting the car into the corner is going to be a little tenuous, if you will, getting that done. Mid-corner is very good in the car. The exit's very good. It's not really a surprising car to drive. It won't shock you or do anything untoward towards you.
Just before belting in, Mack reflected on the task which loomed ahead.
One of the things that makes Motor Trend different than a lot of the other magazines is you can give us a race car and we can get a good lap time. We've driven Indy cars over 200 miles an hour, Winston Cup cars almost 200 miles an hour, all kind of different cars. So my goal here today is to go quick enough to get a good driving impression, but not so quick that I don't stay on the black part.
There was nothing left to do now but strap in and get a taste of this championship thoroughbred at speed. But almost from the moment he rolled from pit lane, Mack seemed to have this car answering his every request without a fuss. With each succeeding lap, the GT3R looked even more sure-footed. And the delicious sound of that flat six under the studied hands of Mr. Demir gradually approached symphonic proportions. Mack was clearly feeling at home, and his boundless enjoyment became contagious as Darrell Havens couldn't resist joining in for several laps in the team's older 911 RSR. Sometimes you can learn much more about a car by how a seasoned driver describes the driving experience in his own terms, rather than by the impersonal, implacable readings from a set of test instruments. This was obviously one of those cases.
I was having so much fun out there that they had to call me in on the radio. I have a little voice in the back of my head said, "You've had enough fun now, it's time to stop." But I kept going and going, and Darrell went past, and I was figuring out a couple of things about driving, and it was like, oh man, I could do this for, until they ran out of gas here. That was a really wonderful car to drive.
This is Cadillac's Road to Le Mans. By March of 1999, made it clear that if the North Star LMP was to contend in 2000, a bodywork redesign incorporating this feature would be required. This change, which had a large effect on the engine packaging, proved no small feat. The engineers, however, met the challenge and shortly thereafter began the construction of chassis